before they are in that position, though it can happen because they do cap rather fast. And we see more Frankfurt 42 mine detectors being completed, and now Pioneers moving in to seize this point again. Not really keen on giving up, and then again I prefer having a buffer zone so he can't sneak too close up to my base and then suddenly rush it. So that's a rather good reason to always have a bit of space on all sides for your base. Panzergrenadiers reinforcing. No creek barracks or anything, and let's see what's going on here. We are seeing a weapon support center going up for Mr. SturmSS, apparently wanting some support for his riflemen of the 4th Infantry Division, apparently not feeling that BARs and an M8 armored car are enough. And we see my troops still holding here, not entirely sure what to expect, of course. And Panzergrenadiers laying down a fresh barbed wire line. Certainly keen on ensuring he can't get too easily to that point, and now we see a small force moving here. Minesweeper Pioneers, while the other team are laying down sandbags to actually protect this MG42 team so it isn't so exposed underneath the tree with the MG. And we see the M8 once more leading a charge, supported by riflemen with BARs, and we're also seeing troops moving up here. Numerous engineers, in fact, might be indeed apparently torching away the sandbags. Apparently not aware that engineers in fact can clear away sandbags. I must admit he probably hasn't really followed up on some of the later details than I suppose in the patches. His own loss though, and apparently just burning away some of the hedges but not actually doing any damage to the sandbags. Always fun to notice. And we have a bit of an engagement here as riflemen are engaging alongside engineers. And I'm definitely not in the position to actually contest this with the forces I have, so I'm quickly pulling back. Riflemen for some reason hanging about here and certainly letting me know that something's going to happen. Grenadiers having a nice party there on the western side, and I see my Pioneers moving out, possibly going to set up a Sturm Armory, and there we go. A Sturm Armory to provide me with some heavier firepower, as I'm not entirely sure what to expect. And what is this? We see a machine gun emplacement setting up to protect this victory point. Again, awfully defensive, not very aggressive play. I feel he certainly could be putting a lot more pressure on me. But then again, with that half track, I'm certainly going to be in a slight advantage situation. And we see the engineers actually breaking through, perhaps realizing that, oh right guys, we can actually clear out sandbags and barbed wire. Goodness gracious, John, you didn't say so. Well, yes, I do, in fact. Marvelous. And we see the M8 standing back nearby, ready for something. And we see a mortar team setting up as well, ready to provide some light fire support and blast those Yankees out. The engineers are apparently having forgotten what they were supposed to do, moving ahead. And just a fun note, but strategic points can actually spot troops. And we see them beginning to lay down mines, and I of course begin spotting this, moving the mortar team into a slightly more advantage position, or also a bit farther away so we can't just rush in. And we see a Stug out, since I'm not entirely sure what to expect, and says I've again decided to re-evaluate the Stug, and of course alongside with some veterancy. And we see vehicle veterancy 1 and armor veterancy 1 on the way. Vehicle veterancy meaning for my half-track it's going to be taking less damage, which will certainly be to its advantage. Panzergrenadiers charging ahead, spotting the engineers as they are laying down mines, which is certainly alerting me to the fact that I probably don't want to rush ahead. And Pioneers moving in, half-track taking damage as it hits the mine as I place there, since I was expecting, oh yeah, someone might actually try to breach there. Pioneers taking 5, Panzergrenadiers moving in to support. Half-track as alongside it, suppressing the engineers. And now moving the rest of my forces in, since I'm suspecting this will be the main point of the assault. But in reality, it's a diversion as another force is preparing here alongside the sniper, so that's certainly sneaky. Certainly not bad, but at the same time you certainly could afford to be more aggressive instead of just letting me do whatever I want and slowly set up defensive positions. And we see mortar fire raining in, and we see the Americans going back in a full rout. And we see him going once more, and I'm suspecting, well, perhaps he thinks I'm up to some sort of naughty business, and I believe I'll respond to that in a moment. Grenadiers moving forwards, not sure what to expect here, but certainly thinking that I might want to push the advantage and move in here. And here me pointing out that, you know, strategic points allow me to see a bit, as again some are not apparently too aware of that. Americans gathering up for a swift counterattack, me not moving ahead, instead waiting for the Stug to get in place. Veterans 1 up already for it, meaning it will take 25% less damage. Always a good idea to get that upgrade, since it costs very much. Think of it a bit as the equivalent of the armored skirt upgrade for the M8 armored car. Really increases the longevity of it, in particular against stuff like anti-tank guns, which with armor-piercing rounds in fact can do a lot more damage than a flak 88, believe it or not. And moving ahead, Pioneers at the fore, taking a lot of fire, pulling back though. Stug at the front now, ready to absorb the damage, but taking a lot of damage. Grenadiers right behind. And we see the half-track as well. A lot of firepower going in. The Grenadiers not really in the best position. Only light cover, meaning they won't take less damage, but only be a bit harder to hit. Grenadiers really going down. Might lose the last one. And there we go. The entire Grenadier team lost. My fault. I really should have retreated them. Veterancy 2 up for the Stug. MG42 gunner now available, firing away. And we see mortar rounds hitting among the riflemen as well, blowing away parts of the bridge and killing further riflemen. And we see a massive assault here. Fult's Grenadier team sadly was lost as the American assault going in here.
We are losing ground.
And we also see Rangers are now on the field and of course now forced to actually deal with this threat. The anti-tank are not pushing further away, and I of course have completely forgotten about this part because again I'm rather focused on these 2 points and creating a front alongside, and I'll just use the tactical map here. I want a front here since I don't want to overextend, since he can hit me from pretty much every side. I want a proper reserve and I want a proper few strong points instead of placing me out too spread thinly, allowing me to become a very nice target for his forces. Stug moving in, Fult's Grenadiers jumping out of the half-track, leaving only the crew again. Rangers taking quite a bit of fire from the Stug, and the half-track quickly suppressed, in fact pinned down. Further Fult's Grenadiers joining into the fight as 116th Panzer Division are taking the fight to the Yankees. 4th Infantry Division. A lot of dead Rangers in fact, and now we see riflemen moving in here, engineers as well, laying down several mines. Me spotting this, but of course the Pioneers were forced back. I tried to actually hit this mine, but I don't think I'll actually have any luck. Stug moving ahead, firing away at the point there, but the MG will probably deal with these riflemen. And we see the engineers seizing the point, not taking this victory point though, and we see the M8S scouting in the rear. Riflemen slowly pulling back, and I'm of course routing for a fresh attack. Grenadiers moving out to replace the ones lost, and we see a Puma as well, since I'm this point suspecting he's going for rather infantry heavy force, in which case a Puma will be able to really quickly deter or at least stop some of the harassment attempts he will be making and give me a bit more mobility. Stug hitting the mine, much to my sadness. Engine is on fire, but it still stands. Pride of the fatherland, German steel and all that. Half-track taking a sticky bomb, but thanks to the effort of the Pioneers quickly on the spot, and of course the Veterans 1 upgrade, it is not knocked out, and already 11 kills. I do believe that means in fact it will more or less already have made itself in American kills. It's actually a bit rare that half-track will earn itself in that way. And now we have the Puma as well. Fult's Grenadiers moving ahead, taking a lot of fire and quickly pulling back. Might be forced to retreat. Stug knocking out a rifleman, only 4 kills so far though. Not much luck yet, and we see riflemen moving ahead. Fult's Grenadiers and Grenadiers at the front. Stug providing fire support with its gun and MG. Riflemen taking heavy losses. Another goes down to the Stug, and we see Firestorm going in as well. As I have gone Terror, suspecting that I will need for some vicious counterattacks, and I feel for that Terror is the best alongside Blitzkrieg, but again Terror can also be used a bit more defensively, so there you go. Inspired Assault and Firestorm, and the Stug is really taking a lot of damage. Shots going off the frontal armor though. Anti-tank gun firing away at the armored car, but not really doing much, and the Stug out of control blows apart. Half-track firing away, fully repaired. A lot of Rangers continuing to go down to this Half-track's MG gunner, who is quite keen on holding the ground for the fatherland. And we see another Ranger going down, and what do we have here? A mortar team ready to provide overwatch. Probably going to try to fire after the Ranger, and we see further sandbags, and now we see further defensive emplacements right here. And we see a motorcycle on the field and another grenadier team, since I really need some more infantry to really hold the line and for some further counter-attacks. Infantry generally is a good force, and you want to keep covered with other things like Stooks, half-tracks and Pumas. The Puma already there, 1 kill so far, probably a Ranger. So far the 4th Infantry Division though has managed through some numerous attacks with their rather powerful Rangers, riflemen and Rangers, force me out, spread me out, force me back a bit, but I did manage a solid counter-attack and retake the central point, but sadly I don't really have the western point yet again, so I'm having a bit of trouble there and really need to set up a fresh front line before further attacks fall in. And there we go, setting up for a fresh assault in the north part with an anti-tank undercover, moving across the bridge, absolutely no defenses. And we see the Stuk and Puma, and the motorcycle moving ahead, slowly spotting ahead, not sure what to expect. The American really immediately preparing for the next part of his plan, and a fresh Stuk being produced, in particular as I am spotting this machine gun emplacement there, in which case a Stuk will be rather handy in clearing it out. Pack setting up in a defensive position just in case. And I'm not entirely sure when he's going to attack, but again he seems to be growing up a bit there, a bit passively again I think. And we see only a armored car and the machine gun emplacement actually holding this point of the map. And we see Greyhound mine going down, in fact. Greyhound mines being a bit more expensive but also a lot more powerful, so that's certainly not to be underestimated. And we see further American forces preparing for the assault. He's apparently expecting some sort of huge mass of Wehrmacht forces right here. Too bad, I will have to disappoint him. There will only be a single mortar team, and they're not even aware of this. Had I been aware, I probably could have landed a few solid mortar rounds right into this and done a lot of damage to his forces, but sadly I was not aware. Instead I was preparing for the assault in clearing this position. I'd rather have a solid goal rather than trying to deal with all of these notice things, but there we go. Going for the 3rd and final victory point. The mortar team suddenly discovers this and is forced to pull back before it is lost in this tide of riflemen and Rangers. Now the central point is lost, and we see the bike taking heavy fire from the Rangers. And I'm of course now alerted to the fact that numerous movements are going